boys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all.
They know it all. They're back here to talk with you here tonight. I'm Rob Cesternino, back with Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how are you?
Great. Hollywood Rob Cesternino slumming it with the Daily Podcasters here back in the
Why do you call
Pod
me
Mines.
Hollywood when I went to Toronto? Which
Well,
is
Toronto Rob Cesternino does not have quite the same
is that
ring.
the Hollywood of Canada?
It's the Hollywood
They
of the
film
world.
a lot of things there, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It could be. Yeah, it's like sort of like the Canadian Hollywood.
That in Vancouver, I feel like
Yeah.
one of the two Hollywoods of Canada. Anyway, so back here with Stephen Fishbach. Thank you so much to Dr. Evie Jagoda for filling in. They did a great job with
They
you
were
last week.
fantastic.
This is not a surprise to me.
Yeah. No, I mean,
No.
me neither. I mean, just
Evie's great on podcasts, so thanks to Evie for coming in and filling in for me. We had a great time seeing all the fans that came out for our sold out show in Toronto, but I'm so excited to be back here, right here with you, Stephen, to talk about as the stage is set for the final five going into the finale of what has been a very fun season, Survivor 44. Stephen, how are you tonight?
I'm great. So this morning I made my prediction for the final six, which last season at this point I was predicting, that Jesse would win. So that didn't turn out so hot for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be wrong again. Like Jamie was my final six boot pick. And for the first 40 minutes, I was like, there's no way it's Carolyn. They're not getting rid of Carolyn. This is a total misdirect. And then that tribal council comes, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm wrong already. Like they did such a good job. The Survivor
They did such a good job. Yes.
Total misdirection. I was 100% fooled.
I really was starting to feel like, oh my God, well, like this is big. This is big. We're gonna get a Carolyn boot here at the final six. And
that would have been huge.
Yeah, it would have been huge. It ends up being Jamie. We'll have our exit interview here with Jamie coming up on Thursday. A little unfair to Jamie that her boot episode ends up being, oh my God, thank God it wasn't Carolyn. Oh my God, I was so nervous. I was so nervous it was going to be Carolyn.
You went home. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But really, like they really made, a silk purse out of a sow's ear, as the saying goes.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of taking a somewhat predictable boot. Especially when Lauren won immunity, it did seem like it was going to be a pretty straightforward Jamie boot, and making it, adding some real drama there at the end.
Well, I have so many things about this that I want to talk through with you in terms of decisions that were made at this vote and some, questionable things that we heard from the players in the episode. So we'll talk all that through. Of course, we're taking your questions here in this podcast, so post them in the chat. We will get to them later on in the show. I mentioned the exit interview I'll have with Jamie, talk with Plant Lady coming up on Thursday morning. And then very excited for your friend and mine, Owen Knight, will be joining me for the recap coming up on Thursday late afternoon. And then on Monday night, I will have Mike Bloom back for the final feedback show of the regular season. In backstage before the show, Sam Moore said this is the last 1 hour episode of Survivor we're going to get for the foreseeable future.
Forever. Wow.
Maybe forever.
Wild. Gosh, it's been so nice. Should we just have a retrospective of what cue a flashback of 1 hour episodes of Survivor, what it's meant to us?
We'll rank if next pandemic, we'll rank the top 400 1 hour episodes of Survivor. But anyway, a little bit of a historical footnote maybe that Survivor moves to 90 minutes in the fall. We didn't really get to the chance to talk about that. I don't know if it came up on the podcast last week. I don't think so.
No.
But Stephen, how are you feeling about this? Is this going to be your retirement from the
an extra 30 minutes on my bedtime might be it for me. not just an extra 30 minutes, because you got to think if it's the episode.
And then you got to talk about stuff more.
Right. There's more to talk about. Maybe we can talk. If we can talk 50% faster, the podcast can be the same as the same as right now.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. We'll work on that over the summer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Stephen, okay, it ends up being Jamie as the boot. We saw Jam Jam really consider, and we have to think this wasn't just posturing for television, correct? That Jam Jam seemed to really consider voting out Carolyn. I mean, he talked about it in confessionals. I don't know why he would lie to us. He talked about it with Carson one-on-one. So it does feel like that this was something that Jam Jam very strongly considered.
Yeah, I did. I mean, at first I just thought that it was, he was selling a bag of stories to Lauren and Jamie. But then it did seem like, and of course, like in confessional, you're a little suspicious because, they always get the question like, well, just tell me why it could be Carolyn. I know you're not going to vote Carolyn. Just give me the reason why you would vote Carolyn. Especially when you're a great storyteller like Jam Jam or Carson, they go to those people for the like, give me the hypothetical that they can then put in the episode afterwards for like, I don't know who it's going to be, even if you already know who it's going to be. That said, there was a lot of that. And I did think that he seemed to really be considering the possibility that maybe Carolyn was the biggest threat to him left in the game. But here's my question about that, Rob. If that was why wouldn't it be Carson? Like, it really does seem like Carson is the bigger threat between Carolyn and Carson. Like, if Jam Jam was going to take out one Tika, why wouldn't it be Carson?
I feel like that Carolyn might be offering a different skill set than Carson might be. I feel like that Carson, just as a young person, especially as a young man, I feel like that they have not traditionally performed well in the final tribal council. And while people might feel like, okay, well, they really like Carson, I just think that Jam Jam's resume is so strong. And I feel like that maybe some people feel like that they had to take care of Carson at different points in the game. Right. So Carson, I do think is a very strong player, but for whatever reason, Jam Jam does not seem particularly worried about beating Carson in the finals.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, like, should we talk about Jam Jam's decision? Like, should he have taken out Carolyn?
I would love to.
Jamie?
Yeah, does it make sense? Because I feel like on paper, it seems like a pretty open and shut case of, the Tikas should stay together here on this vote. But Jam Jam did raise the specter of Carolyn is an incredible fire maker, not necessarily something that we have seen much of on the show. I do wonder if we could see a Carolyn versus Carson potentially in the final four fire making. So that Jam Jam wants no part of Carolyn at 4. And so in that case, I don't know why maybe he doesn't feel like that she's a good person to take out at 5, but it seems like that he was really thinking about her here at 6. I do think that's something that the show is not giving us, that when we get to do the exit interviews with people, I will not be surprised if we end up hearing that when we say to Jam Jam, what was the thing that you were surprised we didn't see in the show? I think that it may end up being that Jam Jam and Heidi were closer than we ultimately ever got to see on the show.
That's really interesting. I mean, it does seem like Heidi is pretty definitively working with that group, but why do you say that now? I mean, for Heidi, like, that's a pretty sweet spot for her, is to be in the fourth of the Tikas, where if they all want to turn on each other at the final 4, she's going to have maybe a smoother path into that final 3. And maybe from her perspective, thinks, hey, this is how I'm going to differentiate myself. I'm going to be sitting next to 2 Tikas. Like, that's great.
Well, I think there's a couple of clues that we've gotten over the course of the season. I mean, I think that Jam Jam talked about that one of his final 3s was him, Heidi, and Carolyn. We saw that Heidi was the one that told Jam Jam about Danny had the idol. Heidi also said to Jam Jam or about Jam Jam earlier in the season that people don't know this, but I have a sweet spot for Jam Jam on the vote where she ultimately used Lauren's vote against Jam Jam, but really just to start the Ratus going against Matt, to give the appearance that she was trying to save Matt at that vote. Also, that they also share the background of both, hailing from Puerto Rico, which I feel like is probably a big bond between the two of them. So I just feel like that. I think that we are just, for whatever reason, not getting it on the show, but I get the feeling that Jam Jam and Heidi are closer than the show is telling us.
Yeah, I believe that. I do believe that. I mean, this sort of like idea that Heidi.
Oh,
Go
also,
ahead.
and then last week where Danny wanted to vote for Jam Jam and Heidi was like, boy, it would be hard to vote for Jam Jam. Danny's like, well, it was hard for me to vote for Franny.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, so why? But what is the relevance of that this week?
That I feel like that maybe Jam Jam is feeling like, okay, well, if I take out Carolyn, I have Heidi, who maybe he does not see as a big final 3 threat, and so he could get Heidi to vote with him in whatever direction. Where if they took out Carolyn potentially this week, him and Heidi and Carson could potentially go against Lauren and Jamie at the final 5.
It does seem like there's no love lost between Heidi and Lauren and Jamie. And so it's great for those. I mean, it's great to be the Tikas in that middle spot where you have these two fractured groups on either side, and they both want to work with you because they both now, want to sneak into the final 4. I mean, this is both the virtue and the problem of a final 4 fire making, where there's so much less pressure on people to turn on the big power players, because they're like, well, I can like sneak in via that fourth spot into the final 4, and then it's anyone's game. Yeah, I mean, I think for Jam Jam, this is my guess. Like, I think he probably maybe thinks he can beat Carolyn in the end, but B, I think Jam Jam's thing is self-preservation. Like, how do I make it there as well as win? Mm-hmm. And if he votes out Carolyn, who's a power player, there seems to be a lot more opportunities for other people to vote him out, right? If there's still the Tika 3, then like he's got still his little power cluster that can like bully their way into the end. But if he takes out Carolyn, suddenly it's him. Carson's got bonds with Lauren and Jamie. Lauren and Jamie are as sizable a block as he and Carson are at that point. And then, depending on what the relationship with Heidi is, like suddenly like things are much more in flux instead of that Tika 3 bond.
I don't think he made the wrong move tonight. I think that he did make the correct call to move forward. But I think he's probably looking at it of, one, Carolyn just made the big move to make the idol play. And how the survivors think of anybody who just makes the move. Now I was like, oh my God, this person is the new biggest threat. So if I take that person out, then I will be the person who took out the person who did the big thing. And so I need to do that. Also, I think that he has been with Carolyn the whole time. I think he knows that she can, on the big stage, perform, and that she is somebody, maybe the one person who could outshine him on a stage like that. And so I think that he knows that she has a great story also that she could potentially. So I think that he is rightfully scared of her in the final 3, but I just feel like that this might have been an overthink to do anything different than what they did tonight.
I just think, again, like Danny last week said, if Carson's there at the end versus my clone, I'm going to vote for Carson. There's that scene where Carolyn said, I have to take out Carson eventually because, I can't beat Carson at the end. Wasn't there a scene with like Heidi, Jamie, and Carolyn this week, or it was 3 people talking about how like Carson was basically unbeatable?
Yeah, but Carolyn was sort of just like lying through her teeth.
Right. No, of course. But she also separately in a confessional said like she had to turn on Carson eventually, but now is not the time. So that is, I mean, I really think like the Carson threat is, I feel like being undersold here a little bit.
I mean, it's hard because you have really from, with all due respect to the other players, the 3 Tikas, each of them would be a great winner. And I think each of them would be great in the final 3. And we don't typically have alliances like that, Stephen, where all of the people in a small alliance, we think they would all be good at the final 3. And we would be very lucky as Survivor fans to get to, I don't think it will happen, but we would be very fortunate. It might be the best final tribal council we've ever seen to have the Tika final 3.
Yeah. Do you think, Carson goes out at Fire Truther?
I think so. I do believe so.
Just because, I mean, it really has gotten excessive with like the fire reflection in the glasses every week. And
Yeah. And I do think that with Carolyn, that little chestnut about how she is so good at the fire, I do feel like that potentially we could see Carolyn being the person to take out Carson, to basically take out her baby in the game.
Wow.
That would
That'd
be
be a
very
powerful
emotional.
moment.
It would be a very powerful moment. So we'll see if we get that coming up next Wednesday night. I want to talk about the Heidi and her idol play here
Oh,
tonight.
such a sad moment. Such a sad, like, I'm here too. I'm a part of this as well.
Yes. How bad was the idol play from Heidi? Now,
I don't
Jamie and
know.
Lauren were throwing her name out there.
Yeah,
I do feel like that Carolyn was expecting for Jamie and for Lauren to vote for Heidi. I think that Carolyn, when she turned and gave a what the F at the tribal council, I do think that she was not expecting to see her name come up. So I think that she was pushing for, so Heidi's name was out there at least as a decoy, but Jamie and Lauren were not biting. Heidi ultimately wastes her idol. She could use it at the final 5. I also had seen Brian Scally on Twitter tweeted out that Heidi should be playing her idol for Jamie if she knows Jamie is going out at this vote.
With then Carolyn, I mean, that would be such a power move. I mean, I just think there's like, it's so hard to build. That's a very interesting idea. The idea that he would save Jamie, Carolyn would then end up going home. And then theoretically those 3, I mean, that would be a real power move for her, right? I mean, but then she's the big target. They have to take her out next. Because then Heidi is hugely elevated her threat level. You know, she's angered Jam and Carson. Jamie and Lauren, it's not like they're going to suddenly be friends with her. They're going to be like, no, you just you know.
What? So what? Do Jamie and Lauren want to go to the you want to go to the final 3 with Carson now? You want to go to the final 3? There's only 5 of them. Like, pick
but I don't. You wouldn't want to do it with the one who just made the big spectacular play.
What? Do you think that would make Heidi the bigger threat than Jam or Carson at that
like
point?
The more immediate. Like Jam doesn't have any like big plays.
I think Jam is the biggest jury threat.
No, I agree with you. I agree. Yeah. I think I agree with you, but I'm just saying it would immediately put the spotlight on Heidi.
Because to me, Jam, he's the Goldilocks of Tika. I feel like that, you know, you have between Carson and Carolyn, you know, sometimes like too hot and too cold, and Jam is just right.
That's very funny. That's a very good. That's a good bit. Is this the first? Are you breaking that out for the first time here?
Second time.
Okay, what was the first time? I missed it.
Well, I know how you listen to all of my podcasts.
I thought I did. Yes. Now I know that there's one I missed. It must. Anyway, so yeah, no, it's very interesting. That would be such a smart play, but again, like those, you know, there's just that's just not happening, right? Like Tika is in the middle of that group. I think if you're Heidi, yeah, like your name is out there. Your name has always been out there. You know, if you can get rid of, I mean, especially with Lauren, who allegedly is a big threat, you know, she's got immunity, which means like the target is going to probably be on her next time. If you're Heidi, you can like, you know, I think it's fine. I mean, it's not going to win any votes for her. But,
I mean, but don't you think Heidi could have also, tell me if you think that the Survivor players would see through this. If Heidi even like revealed that she had and now she has an idol, she went looking for an idol. If she got people thinking that like, oh, she found the idol, doesn't that at least give her implicit immunity, to borrow a term from the Survivor Global podcast, and that people would not cast their vote for her here at the final 6, and then she can play that idol for real at the final 5?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting idea because it is true. People are hesitant to play to vote.
It's not like that this group of 5 was going to be able to split the votes.
Right. And like, especially at 6, you really can't screw it up. I mean, you know, you said at every vote along the way, you really can't screw this one up. But like at 6, it's like there's no real room to maneuver. It's like you're messing up your whole end game plan if you get that vote wrong. That's a really interesting idea.
Yeah. Do you feel like that there was a new idol out there and they just didn't find it?
I'm not out on them not finding another idol. I mean, there's, you know, I mean, that's the other reason for Heidi to play it. It's like, I play it now, I can find it.
And then the Survivors, this is, I kind of feel like is a little bit, does this defeat the purpose of that the Survivors showed up at Tribal Council with all of their stuff because they know that, oh, the final 5, you're going to go and live at a new camp. And so the Survivors like, all right, well, we'll just take all of our stuff. And so we're going on a field.
They still have to build a new camp. Although, do these guys even have a shelter? Like they just lie on this?
Do you think they're building a new camp for 3 days?
I dig a fire pit.
They'll dig a fire pit. It's what was that, day 22 at the end of this, day 23?
But that's very fun. Do you think the production liked that? I think they liked it because that's like the players like watching it, learning from the game, and adapting. I think that's like a positive development. Do you think production liked it?
I don't know. Well, why are we doing this then? If they know it's coming, like, okay, now you're gonna sleep on a different beach tonight. Oh, okay. For why? Yeah. They just lay on the ground. Yeah. So I don't really know.
Most groups have shelter, but this group is like they just like to chill out on the beach. It must be very temperate. The beach is very cold.
It has been very, other than like a couple times during the challenge, it seems like that we've had like pretty nice weather all the way through Survivor 44, but they brought all the stuff with them. I feel like that what they have done typically in the past is that there is a clue to an advantage in the challenge, but there is not a actual idol. I think that there was there might have been an idol in Survivor 39, but I believe that all the way through the new era, they get a clue to an advantage in the final 5 challenge.
Yeah, right. That's yes.
So I think that if there was an idol hidden, I think that idol is gone.
Yeah. Okay. So no more idols then.
Unless we get a flashback that we could get of like the start of the next episode. We could see Heidi, like, I played my idol last night because I actually found another idol.
Strange ways.
Yeah. It could be wild.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay. Stephen, I want to commend the Survivor producers here once again. And because I try, we give out a lot of the medicine. I also want to just give out the flowers here that I believe this marks now 5 straight episodes of normal voting. Nothing wacky in terms of this was good old-fashioned Survivor all the way from the final 10 here through the final 6. And, barring something completely wacky, an advantage in the final 5 immunity challenge, but we've had a very, very straightforward merge for the new era from the final 10 on.
It's funny how desperate we are. Just like, give us the normal format. Just give us the normal format.
I mean, but like, we can't complain. Like, this has been like
nice.
for this compare it to 41 and 42, where I think that there were like 3 normal votes all the way through. This was like they messed around at 12 and 11, and then really from 10 through now the final 4 fire making, it looks like that we got a very straightforward season. And for all of the sort of wackiness that was going on in the pre-merge, I love that they really just sort of like, okay, let the players cook.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Let the players cook?
Yeah, let them cook. I'm not the only person that says this, but you cast such great people that know the show so well. We want to watch them play.
Yeah, 100% agree. And you're getting people like Carolyn who are making, complex strategic decisions while also being their authentic emotional selves. And that is really exciting too. And it's like exciting, not in the context of all the like advantages she could play, but of like the complex emotional decisions she's making, about whom to save and whom to vote for and whom to vote against. And that's really fun.
I want to go back to last week's vote where we saw that Jamie and Lauren ended up voting with the Tikas against Danny and Heidi. Now, with the benefit of hindsight and seeing how this played out for Jamie, can we say definitively that they ended up making the wrong decision? Or is results oriented?
Well, the results would include the fact that Carolyn played the idol for Carson, which would have, but the decision was wrong, right? I mean, there's unquestionably the wrong decision here.
Yeah. This might have been the Kobayashi Maru no-win scenario for Jamie and Lauren.
They should have voted out Jam Jam. My gosh. Go for Jam Jam. Why not go for Jam Jam there?
Are you talking about back when they had the chance of Blankenship? Well, I think we could say now at this point they definitely picked the wrong person to vote out Blankenship instead of Jam Jam.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a very different alternate scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But that was 100% the wrong choice. They absolutely should have voted out one of the Tika 3. Jam Jam had immunity. Carson had when Idol was being put. I mean, Carolyn might have sniffed it if it was her, played the idol for herself. They only knew it was Carson, right? Because either Carolyn's magic powers, or my theory is that maybe Heidi just told them that Carson's name was out there. So, I mean, especially with your read that Jam Jam and Heidi have really good vibe. It's really possible that Heidi just spilled the beans about that plan. But yeah, definitely, yeah, like no win scenario. Really frustrating that they didn't make that choice because that was the
what about
correct
for
choice.
them tonight? Any second guesses about what Jamie and Lauren were doing tonight to ultimately put their votes on Carolyn?
I mean, no, that's the right call, right?
Yeah.
You've got to like take a stab to get rid of the Tikas.
I really do feel like at the end of the day, and I don't know if the show has given him quite enough credit, that I do feel like that Carson has been the person who has done the job of stringing along. Like, I feel like that this Tika 3, I feel like that Jam Jam, I think that he's closer with Heidi, but I think that Carson has done the work to string along specifically Lauren and Jamie. He put in the work at Ratu. That he only
built those bonds.
He built those bonds. He was the one who went to Lauren and Jamie last week and said, "Hey, like, I'm really worried. I'm hearing my name. Like, let's vote. You want to vote for Danny? You want to vote for Heidi?" He felt like that he had them voting with him coming back. And they did. They came back from that last vote feeling like that they had built more trust again with Carson, that they did, the Tika people did what they said. Although there was no mention of that Lauren. I mean, that Lauren and Jamie did vote against Carolyn tonight, but no mention of the Carolyn crossout vote. Or was it underlined, Stephen?
I thought, I mean, it was crossed out, right? The original. Oh, wait, I don't get that.
There's
Was that miss a joke? Okay.
Yeah. It's Succession.
I'm really not caught up. That's a spoiler.
That's fine.
Now that whole season is spoiled.
Okay, you're fine. I think you're still fine. I think you're still fine.
Yeah, that is weird that was not mentioned. I mean, I think Evie suggested that it was or one of us, maybe someone suggested that it was a nod to Danny's initial plan and her her like declaring freedom.
It was an art project.
No, it was like, I'm not doing your vote, Danny.
But Danny wanted to vote out Carson.
Wait. Oh, well.
Last week,
right,
when Carolyn,
she wrote Lauren down.
She wrote Lauren and crossed it out, and then wrote Danny.
Well, but Lauren was the plan that Danny had told Carolyn.
Oh, I get maybe. I mean, I think that's a really long way to go for.
Who knows? This is the mystery of humankind.
The mystery of humankind, I guess so. Yeah, but you would think that Lauren would have had some sort of a response to that.
Yeah.
Now, Lauren did go on to win immunity, her second immunity win of the season. Do you feel like that Lauren has a shot at this thing?
Do you?
I personally, I don't see it. But, I feel like that, this was certainly a good challenge for her tonight. And, the history of Survivor is littered with people that heat up at the right time.
Yeah, I think Lauren is hard because she really has been pretty under-edited. We're not talking about the edit. However, she's a particularly extreme example where you really just don't feel like if she won, we would have seen so much more of her, right? I mean, like, that is she's like the extreme example of like, here we are at the final five. This is someone who we've seen very little of. And you just can't imagine, even more so than other extreme examples. I mean, it's like Erica and Gabler are Boston Robin season 22 compared to Lauren here.
No, I don't know about that. But yeah, I feel like that her story has not been, very layered. I feel like that we, hear about her being a single mom,
but we never her like strategic thinking. Almost
we
never
don't hear a ton about her thoughts in the game. For sure.
And last week, especially, where it seemed like it was such a definitive choice for them to go, to not vote out Carson. If anything, we saw all their reasons to vote for Carson. I think if Lauren won, we would have had to see her say why she chose not to do that. Or some kind of something about her strategic position in the game, which we have seen very, very little. Let me ask you a more complex question, Rob.
Please. I love
who will win between Carolyn and Jam Jam
at the end in the final three?
Yeah.
I think I would say I think Jam Jam.
Yeah, I think Jam Jam too. A lot of people are saying Carolyn though. On
it's a toss up. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, I think it is not a blowout. I think Jam Jam wins, but Carolyn is a very.
I mean, would you want to talk it through? I mean, again, taking out the third party spoiler aspect of it.
And if it's
I think,
Heidi, who I think it is, maybe she gets Danny's vote, but maybe not.
okay. Well, just to go through the people on the jury, Brandon, I think would go for Jam Jam.
Right.
And then
Danny could vote for Jam Jam too. I mean, Danny could vote for Heidi.
I think that
Danny's not voting for Carolyn.
Danny's not gonna vote for Carolyn. I think Danny would vote for Jam Jam. I think Kane probably also would be a vote for Jam Jam. Franny, I think, would be a vote for Carolyn. And does Matt follow suit as well?
They're in love. They're gonna vote the same.
They're gonna
vote.
I think if you're in love, I think you vote.
It's not
the same
like
way.
James Carville. What's her name? Mary.
I don't even know where she is anymore.
Mary Madeline. Yeah.
Not
like a James
Carville. Not Mary. Yeah. So then that's 5 of the jurors. Then we have Jamie tonight. Jamie, I feel like she's been very concerned about Jam Jam. I don't really see. I don't think that she's had a particularly close relationship with Carolyn over the course of the season, but I think she's a real toss-up.
Lauren, I think, is going to be Jam Jam, right? Lauren basically said, Lauren, there was that scene between her and Carolyn tonight where she was like, I think Carolyn is smart, but most of the time I don't really see it. To me, that was, you could see an argument for a Jam.
Stephen,
yeah.
Is it possible? Could we get a Jam Jam Carolyn Carson final where Carson has to cast the deciding vote for Jam Jam and Carolyn?
Wow, that would be great. That would be a great story.
I think that we could potentially get that, but potentially I don't think it would be Carson in that spot. I think that maybe it could be, say, a Heidi or a Lauren potentially. Although I don't think Lauren would get. I think Lauren would get a lot of RHAP votes.
Yeah.
And I think that also Heidi, I think, would get Danny's vote.
But would Danny? Heidi and Danny, we've heard a lot about how the ride or dies, so I do think there's a very good chance of that. But Danny's like all business. He's not like making an emotional. That's his whole shtick.
He's all business. Did you see what he was wearing?
No, I missed it. Was he wearing?
Even my son was like, Dad, what is Danny wearing on the jury? I don't know. I think he's like a sheet.
Was it a beanie?
It wasn't a beanie. It was like, I don't know. It was like it was like a green sheet that he turned into a shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should be very exciting in terms of who makes it there based on this combination of 5. Who do you think goes out at 5?
I really think it's Lauren. Because if you're the Tika 3, you want Heidi there. I think.
Well, I think that's a good point where you really don't. Where Lauren has not gotten a big edit. She does have a lot of people on the jury now. There's a lot of Ratus on the jury between Brandon, Kane. Now Jamie is also there. That's 3 people that could potentially be Lauren votes. So that's a
people
lot
have talked about Lauren as a threat too. If
she's got 2 immunities, single mom,
great story.
So I do think that she has some baked in things that really help her in terms of sitting in the final 3. So I do think that she could well be the person that goes out at 5.
Also, it is a historical thing. This is no longer always the case. But the first person out of the finale often gets slightly worse at it.
You always say that.
It's not the case anymore as much.
That has not been the case.
It's not the case recently.
In the new era, it's been Ricard, Lindsay, and Carla. 3 people who Lindsay left.
I didn't think Lindsay had a good edit.
She the last few episodes, she really did pick up. She gained a lot of steam.
Yeah, but overall,
Ricard and Carla.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. But So. But I'm stuck in the past. But Stephen, that's okay because that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Let's take some questions from the listeners. Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Paula wants to know if Jam Jam or Carson wins the last immunity, would they send Carolyn to the fire making challenge and take each other? I think Jam Jam. I think Jam Jam and Carson are considered to be the 2 biggest. I know there's a lot of talk about how Carolyn is now the biggest threat because of this. I still think Jam Jam and Carson are considered to be the 2 biggest threats.
So we haven't done the math on this yet this season, and I feel like that maybe with Mike Bloom I'll work it out. There's only 3 final immunity challenges that they do on Survivor. There is Samotion. There is stack the letters on the springy thing. And there is the one they did last season with you have like the long fork and then, stack up your bowls. That's it. So they did that last season. Are we due for, they did Samotion in 42. Are we due for put your letters in the right order on the springy spring?
Who's going to win that? Heidi?
I feel like Heidi is, but I could totally see Heidi with a Final Four immunity win.
Taking Jam Jam to the finals?
That would be wild, though. I think that would be a very bad decision.
But I think maybe they want Carson out. They want Carson out. My read is they want Carson out, and then maybe they think Carolyn's the best person to do it.
If Carolyn is the master fire maker, I don't know, do you put her into the fire potentially? But I think that would be wild to take Jam Jam to the final three.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe she thinks it will put, I don't know. That would be a wild choice.
Maybe she puts herself into the fire and beats Carson.
I do think Heidi, because Heidi actually has had stuff about fire making.
Well, you know what? In her package from last week where we saw her and she was showing all the things that she can do, she was skydiving, she was powerlifting. Also, she had made a fire and she was moving it into a thing.
Well, in episode 1, she was, I mean, that's not like an edit.
She was the one that got the fire started.
But also there was a whole thing about her, like how she had skills nobody knew about. And, this is why she was going to do so well. So Heidi being the one to take out Carson in the Final Four fire making challenge is that's my guess.
Oh boy, yeah, and we're gonna relitigate Survivor 43 if Heidi wins Final Four immunity, puts herself into the fire, and doesn't win the game.
Wow, that would be so crazy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see her winning necessarily the final. I don't think she's gonna win the final. I kind of think Jam Jam's going to win the final immunity. Is that wild? Like, I don't know why. I have no reason. I truly have no reason to think that. I mean,
if it's Samotion, I see him doing that. I feel like I don't know if like the immunity that we saw him win was the last gasp. So I don't know if that's necessarily like too indicative of, but like I think like a steady hand and like I do think Heidi could win that one.
Heidi winning and putting herself in fire to take out Carson losing would be so sad. Heidi could Heidi win? Could Heidi win this whole thing? Like, just like strip me of my like preconceived beliefs that Jam Jam is going to win this. Tell me why it's Heidi.
Okay, if we're gonna like figure out a path for Heidi, I think that she probably see, this is going to be tough. Like, does she want Lauren or no? Maybe she doesn't want. Okay. So she goes with two Tikas. Okay. Yeah. So I think she goes with like Jam Jam and Carolyn, and and Jam Jam and Carolyn are splitting votes.
Yeah.
And so they split like all of the friendly Tika votes. They get Carson. They get Franny and Matt and Kane maybe. And so. Could she get the other Ratu people and Danny? Could Danny be doing work for her on the jury and sort of like talking her up and the things that she does, especially if she wins an immunity down the stretch? She found an idol. She found the key and like made Lauren use her vote, made the fire and put herself into it. So yeah, I think that you could potentially squint and see it, but I think that she has to go up against two Tikas.
Yeah. I'm not totally out on a Heidi win. I mean, even just in terms of the story she's had all season, I'm not totally out.
I'm just also trying to think. So if she could get it to 3-3-2, where now maybe she has 3 votes, Jam Jam has 3 votes, Carolyn has 2 votes, then does Carolyn then cast a deciding vote, or do the 2 people that vote for Carolyn revote?
Well,
I think that it would be. I think that they would have it where, okay, Carolyn, you are now in 3rd place. You cast the deciding vote.
Yeah, I think that's how they would. They wouldn't have.
So I don't think that that Heidi could win on a 3-3-2 split.
She has to get 4 votes or 4 votes. Well, probably not going to happen, but it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know if it's maybe Jam Jam, Carson, and Heidi could potentially, with Carolyn not being there, could Franny and Matt from Soka vote for Heidi in that scenario where now there's 3 Soka people with 3 Sokas on the jury and then no Carolyn there for Franny to vote for?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally conceivable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially,
Okay.
I think it's just about giving the jurors a reason to vote for you, right? That's what I think people say these days.
Okay. All right, Steven. Let's Tubby Lunchbox has a question. Yes or no? Do you think Carolyn's idol was actually rehidden?
Yes. What about you?
We had the idol from Heidi. Does production want there to be? I mean, if you listen to the Jeff Probst podcast, I think they do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They have been either these people are bad at finding things, or production has been just very restrained. We never saw knowledge is power this season. We didn't have a choose your champion advantage. I don't know if production just feels like, hey, if they're giving us what we want, we don't need to go crazy with the idols. And if the players are playing too tight, we're gonna load. I know they'll say, hey, everything is in the binder beforehand, like we plan it out. But I do wonder if they're happy with what they're getting, they don't go crazy and go and do a bunch of more advantages.
That's interesting, and they don't want to rock the boat with a situation that they have that they like. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? If that was you producing the show, like, why wouldn't that's how you would do it, right? Like, you would be like, here, I want to respond to the situation as it develops, not like
if I'm happy with how things are going, why would I like change things up? Right.
Yeah. And
okay.
you know that they love the Tika 3. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Steven, here's a question from Rachel. If Carson is on the jury, would he vote for Carolyn or Jam Jam?
I don't know. I think Carson would vote for Jam Jam.
He told Jam Jam that he was his number one in the episode tonight. Carolyn did play the idol for him.
Carson's whole story has been like, am I a rational player or a messy player? And I wonder if that like pays off in some way in like his final vote.
Mm-hmm. I also wonder what are the circumstances where he goes out of the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like Carolyn said, she had to turn on it. I think Carson is, well, I mean, but it's like, he's not turned on if he's like the final 4, like, we're not taking you. There's no like, that's the problem with this final 4. It's like, there's no big betrayal. That big betrayal that we want to see. That's like the heart of Survivor. It becomes like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think that Carson's superpower in the game has been that he has played up the, like, I'm just a kid, like, and his, like, help me, like, I'm in trouble, like, I need you to vote with me. That he has been underestimated at every single turn.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that he is at the final 3, I'm sure, planning to explain that. But Steven, do you feel like that is something that players will respond well to? Like we've seen in the past, like the Dawn Mehans of the world, where people that have said like, oh no, I preyed on your vulnerability. Yeah, you were helping me, but I also then took advantage of that. Do you think that Carson will be able to flip the script on people and get people to vote for him?
I have been saying this since for a while because I assumed Carson was in the final 3 for a long time. I no longer think that, but I've been saying for a while that I think Carson's problem in the final 3 will be everyone underestimates him. Like he's the kid brother. He's like he's like the friend. And like once you've perceived someone in that way, it is so hard to like fundamentally change your perception. And when they're telling you, hey, I did these things, I pulled these strings, you don't think like, oh, maybe I was wrong. You think like, you're lying to me. You're delusional. Like you're like making up a story to make yourself sound better. I know who you are. You're the kid brother. You're the best friend. You really have to have like a flashy way of kind of like breaking people. And that's what I think Carolyn's idol play was, right? It was her like object kind of lesson of like, I'm not this person you've been misreading me as. I am a big player. I am a strategic thinker. And like, that's sort of why that was a good idol play, even if it was ultimately like not necessary. It was like, because it was such a visible proof that like, hey, I did pull one over on you. And, same with Marianne having like this, like his secret she had, right? The whole game, she could say like, I did have this thing that you didn't know about, it was a big reveal. where I think like Carson would need something like that, which was just like, I did this thing that like
Yeah.
proves that I'm not that little kid brother.
But I think that the shift between what Carolyn might have done and Carson is that I think that Carson has played on people's, like, I don't want to say sympathy because I don't think
Right.
it's exactly that, but he has played on that people have like taken him under their wing and he's been that little brother, where Carolyn has been just sort of like disregarded. And then Carolyn, I think, has like an easier path to a victory because she could say, you thought you disregarded me. You didn't think I was doing anything. And I was doing blah, 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 blah. Where Carson is saying like, you thought I didn't have anything going on, but I was actually manipulating you. Like I got you to feel bad for me and that you would tell me your secrets. And then I use them against you. It's like, what? Carson,
Right.
how could you do that to me?
Well,
I trusted you.
Isn't there a Gabler style path for Carson where it's like, I was a part of all your groups. Like we were all in it together. Like I am your avatar here today. Like, Gabler's whole thing was like, and I was in this group and I was in this group and I was in this group. And like, less about like, I deceived you. I used your kindness.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that I'm sure that he has run every simulation possible and he has the winning argument. And I think he probably knows better than us.
Yeah.
All right. DC Destiny wants to know, Stephen, is there any scenario where Carolyn wins? Sure.
I think we both think it's very possible.
Yeah. What's Carolyn's best draw for the final three? I think take Jam Jam out of it.
I mean, honestly, it's probably Lauren and Heidi, right? I mean,
Lauren and Heidi for sure. What about if Carson is in there?
Carson is not, I think maybe not a terrible draw for her because she did save him, even though not really, but like, I think that's, not, and if Carson does have all that sort of, negativity associated with him that you're suggesting, and then
potentially,
Heidi
there's no evidence to support that anybody has hard
feelings.
Well,
I wonder if like, in that case, is Heidi better for Carolyn or is Lauren better?
Well, yeah, I think that maybe I think that Lauren and Heidi I think is pretty good for Carolyn. But I also think that maybe if it's Carolyn Carson, Heidi is good. I think Carolyn Carson, Lauren I think is still probably okay. Yeah.
I mean, I do think you're right that Lauren has real, good bonds with the Ratus. So, I mean, I think she does have sort of that voting block right there.
Yeah, because I think that, okay, so even if Lauren drew the 3 Ratu, maybe she might get Danny. She could get the 4 with Danny also on the jury. So that would be tough. Carolyn would have to sweep it at that point. So I think that might actually, Lauren might be a bad call for Carolyn to go to the final 3 with. Yeah. Let's see. How about this question from Deanna?
All right, Deanna Harper wants to know, question, what incentive does any Tika have to vote with Lauren? She has 2 wins, friends on the jury, but only 1 correct vote.
Yeah, I think as we've talked this through, I don't think that there is a correct scenario where any of them potentially would want. I mean, I guess you're sort of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But especially if you're Carolyn, I think that is a very dangerous scenario where Lauren could get the 3 Ratu and also Danny on the jury. That's 4 votes already.
Yeah. I
don't think there's any other person, even against Jam Jam and Carson, that nobody else has, 3 and potentially 4 votes baked in.
Yeah. I think that's right.
I mean, if she went with Lauren and Heidi could be stealing away that Danny vote, potentially, I think there's more room for that. But I do think that Carolyn is, it's important to her to get to the end with her people.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see if there's anything else that we haven't talked about. This question, do you think that somebody found the idol? They didn't show it. They showed the idol search for some reason. My guess is Heidi.
It is interesting that they showed the search, like why show the search? I mean, I guess just to show how hard people are playing, but like really why show the search if it doesn't go anywhere? That's a good point.
I don't think that we're going to see it again unless we open the next episode with Heidi. Like I had another idol the whole time.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, that would add some drama to Heidi playing it tonight, because if we knew she had 2, like what, so the question would be like, why didn't they show her getting it today? Because it's like, well, if we knew she had two, then we know for sure she was playing one tonight. So that like takes away all drama from that.
Yeah. That's a good point. So I think there's a non-zero chance that she found it. I mean, Heidi has been good at finding the idol so far this season. So certainly is possible. All right, Stephen, anything else about?
No, it was a very straightforward episode. You know, so yeah, it was but nevertheless a fun episode.
Okay. Next week, I know you have a scheduling conflict. You are not going to be with us for the finale.
Very sad to miss the big end.
Do you have anything that you want to say on the record? Predictions? Any other thoughts about the season?
Yeah, congratulations to the winner who received the final Fishy. Oh, Fishy tonight, I guess Jam Jam, right? He seemed to be the decision maker of the vote tonight, Jam Jam. You know, very fun season. It really was a fun season. I mean, especially once we got some of the more you know, normal style votes, some big players, characters. You know, I think especially Carolyn is sort of like a good like all-time character for the show. Just a really fun, you know, kind of archetype breaking character. Jam Jam I've loved as well, has been so fun. I mean, just been a really fun cast. Yeah, I mean, where are you on this season, Rob?
I'm actually very high on it. I mean, I feel like, especially in terms of like where we were in the first half of the season, where we were like, what, like, where is my Survivor? What is this? For them to have been so restrained with the back half of the season, that I feel like that this is, you know, some of these all-time great characters that we have. So overall, I am very high that I think, you know, there was a lot of hype about this season. I think that largely it has lived up to that hype. And I think
really?
Yeah, I think so, because I feel like that we have, you know, I mean, a really great final group here.
Yeah, it is fun. I mean, it's still to me a little bit of, you know, it's never going to be the same because of all the, you know, the goofiness and just how fast, like, it does feel like people are constantly like, you know, it's not the same thing that I fell in love with. Like, you know, is it ever going to be in the top 10, you know, top 20 seasons of Survivor? Like,
we'll find out from Dalton Ross tonight.
I think I would still rather have, you know,
give me a prediction. What do you think Dalton ranked?
I actually know, so
okay.
I can't predict. Yeah, no spoilers here.
I'm gonna guess 16.
Yeah, I basically I texted Dalton, I was like, you can't put it. I mean, as good as fun as this is, like, it still can't be in the top 20 seasons of Survivor. You know, just because.
And he said, "What? Hold my beer."
Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what he said. That would give it away.
Okay.
But you know, it's not like, because it's like not the same format that we love, and it's fun and it's a good show, but it's not, you know, for me, it's like it can never be in that upper echelon.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and tell you about what else is going on here at Rob Has a Podcast. Of course, want to get more involved with everything that we're doing. If this is the type of content that speaks to you, become a patron of Rob Has a Podcast. Head on over to robhasawebsite.com/patron. Become a part of our patron community of people who love reality TV from all around the world. And there's so many more new shows that are coming out left and right. So be a part of everything we're doing when you go to robhasawebsite.com/patron.
Rob, do you have a map of like where, like every country that you have like a patron in?
I don't know if I have a map of where all the patrons are. I think that we could probably do the listeners.
It would be interesting to see, you know, like just, listeners even, like what countries RHAP has penetrated and where, you know, where we still need to make progress.
Stephen, we're across 6 continents. Okay. We're killing it.
Got to make it to Antarctica.
Yeah. That'll be the first podcast.
Is it McMurdo station? I'm at the live podcast in McMurdo.
Okay. In Antarctica. Okay. Yeah. All right. Then, of course, check out everything else we have going on this week. robhasawebsite.com/survivor feed for everything we are doing in terms of getting you ready for the finale. Then, as well, Below Deck, Sailing Yacht. Myself and Sasha Joseph talked about what's going on in our Bravo podcast feed. You can hear everything we're doing covering Bravo shows at robhasawebsite.com/Bravo feed for that. Then, of course, if you want to hear me talk more about Succession, you could hear me on post-show recaps every week, talking with Josh Wigler, part of all of their Succession coverage. That's also in the Rob as a Podcast main feed as well. So check that out. RuPaul All-Stars premiere recap. Season 8, 1 and 2 kicks off. Check out the recap in our Drag Race podcast feed. Episodes 1 and 2. And then I mentioned the Bravo podcast feed. We've got a great crew coming your way to recap everything that's happening in the Vanderpump Rules finale recap. That's going to be in our Bravo podcast feed, as we've got Brian Cohen and Ali Lasher and friends are going to be covering the Vanderpump Rules finale. Go to robbinswebsite.com/Bravo feed for that.
Someone on Twitter just wrote.
Yes.
Someone on Twitter just said, "No, this was a very fun idea."
People are saying,
yeah. If Heidi played the idol for, I mean, this is total fan fiction, played the idol for herself and voted as a block with Jamie and Lauren, they all become immune because Lauren is immune from the immunity.
Okay.
Heidi would be immune from the idol. Jamie would be immune as one of the recipients of the tied votes. So suddenly it has to be a Tika 3 going home.
Interesting.
Yeah. What a power move that would be. I mean, obviously not going to happen. Did not happen. Not going to, nor did it happen. But a very fun, hypothetical.
Yeah, I get the sense that Heidi was not that sure about where the votes were going to be, confident enough to.
No, but she's playing it on herself in this scenario.
Sure. I guess so. Just cast a vote for Jamie. Anyway, there. So wait, hold on. So Heidi, let me just talk that through with me one more time.
Yeah. If Heidi, Jamie, and Lauren vote as a block, and they vote for who did they vote for? Carolyn.
Yes.
And
okay.
If all Tika 3 votes for Jamie, it's gonna be Carson or Jam Jam who goes home.
Yeah. No, I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's from DCLNZHANG.
But did she want Tika to go home? I mean, that's really that. Like, it would have been cool for us. I don't know if that's what Heidi wanted.
It would have been cool.
RobinsWebsite.com/subscribe for links to subscribe to all of our podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's all for free. RobinsWebsite.com/subscribe. I will also be back doing our patron happy hour tomorrow for our patrons. I will be taking your calls live, I believe, I think at 1 p.m. Sam, can you confirm that? 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for patron happy hour. Love to hear your questions. We'll talk about Survivor and everything else going on here in the world of Robin's podcast. Fishy, Stephen.
I think Jam Jam, right? Jam Jam.
Okay, give it to Jam Jam. He certainly, I don't know if he made a big move. He talked the most about the move.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Who gets the fishy? I mean, like, it's like Jam Jam or Carson or Carolyn. I mean, like, who gets? I mean, like, Jam Jam might have made a bad move, right? I mean, Jam Jam's whole, angst was like, am I voting? Is voting out Carolyn the smart move that I'm not willing to make because I feel I have too much, I mean, if Jam Jam loses to Carolyn, Fishy revoked.
Okay, fair enough. That's a pending call. Pending call for the Fishy for Jam Jam. Okay. It's just it's not a call. It's a pending call. Yeah. All right. Stephen, thank you so much for all of your hard work this season. Will we be seeing, will you commit to being here for Survivor 45?
Yes, I will commit to it. I'll definitely be here for Survivor 45, at least the first episode until I see how tired I am.
Okay. All right. You will retire in person. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.